Welcome to Social Work Herald, Professor P.K. Shajahan. We are privileged to have you with Social Work Herald. I know you are quite busy person, being the Dean Academic Affairs of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, one of the most important and with prestigious institution of India. I know that you have given time. We are really thankful to you. We would like to chat with you the new current issues in the social work profession. I have come to know with your new latest book, which has a very catchy title, Remaking Social Work for the New Global Era. So first, congratulations for such a wonderful contribution to the social work literature. And this initiates me that social work started from poverty elimination program, and in last 120 years, we have come on the stage where the entire globe is changing, especially post-COVID. So how do you see the social work education per se and social work profession, going in India?
Right. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to Social Work Herald. I understand that Social Work Herald is making, new headways in taking social work to a larger community beyond social work. So in that sense, it's my privilege to be part of, Social Work Herald's program. You were talking about the new book which we have worked on. Actually, this emanated from the idea that COVID has disrupted the entire global societies, both economically, socially, politically, culturally. When we were looking at, working with International Association of Schools of Social Work and International Council on Social Welfare, both of which I have been part of the, board of directors, we realized that current society, which is going through tremendous changes. So when we talk about this change which is happening as part of this, process of disruptive changes which brought in by the COVID-19 pandemic, we realized when we were looking at different social work academics across the globe, we were discussing about the possibility of trying to look at what is happening to the society and how we are responding and how particularly social work is responding to this. So we realized that this change which we are talking about in the context of pandemic is not necessarily related to pandemic alone. It is a structural problem of welfare. And that's changing the way we live, the way we conduct, the way social work is responding. So in the current changes happened probably immediately as part of this pandemic, but due to multiple factors of, capitalist mode of development and various processes associated with it, we need newer methodologies. We need newer analysis. We need understand what is happening to the society and what is the role of the state and the market and civil society.
So that's mean that our old methodologies, old ways of intervening people, they will be requiring more innovations, more interventions, newer researches. And looking at the Indian scenario, where still we are talking, 3 primary methods and 3 auxiliary methods.
Yeah.
And most of the colleges which are located into the rural mainstreams, not many new researches have reached there. But nevertheless, do you think that in India, the social enterprise, social entrepreneurship, or newer areas of social work will emerge?
Right.
And the practice part will be taking a more important, beyond from community organization or organizational practices. We will be going to some newer areas. Will you talk about them?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it, because it's not to say that social work, traditional methodologies and practices are irrelevant. It is not. All processes which we have gone through, basically the value base of
I agree.
So those kind of foundations remains very, very strong. And that's something which is differentiating social work from all other developmental practice processes, including various disciplines which contribute to the development sector. Having said that, the change which I am talking about in the context of changing global scenario. So that's why in the book which you are referring to, this book, we were not talking about post-COVID. We were talking about a changing global era. So in that changed global era, I think we need a slightly different way of looking at things. The methodologies, the methods of social work remains very, very useful, handy. But at the same time, there are certain critical issues which we identify. One of the things which we were talking about in the book was that there are structural issues. The structural issues need a structural approach. So in that, when we are doing that structural analysis and structural problem solving approach, something which currently I'm working on through my research as well as publication is social innovation perspective. So this is very, very important, because in the sense that the complex situations which we confront today in the society need newer approaches. And the newer approaches doesn't come necessarily from some new ideas, but it talks about new analysis. On one side, you need the basic needs of the people to be met, and that's one of the issues which we're talking about in Indian context. That's very, very important. The basic needs have to be met, where the welfare state is not in a position to meet all those needs. The second is the kind of structural change in human relationships which we need to work on. So the two pillars of social innovation which we are talking about is, one, meeting the basic needs, and the other is relationship. The relationship between the people and the state, people and the market, people and people-to-people relationships. So those are things which we are working on, something called people-centered social innovation.
And as you are aware that in India we have a new education policy. And under the new education policy, we are revamping the courses, duration, and we are thinking of many other newer ways to go for education. And some people says that this will completely change the face of social work as a profession. So my curiosity is to know your views that 4-year programs in social work education and these newer issues, are we in position to integrate them, or will we able to integrate, because a lot of literature available in past and new literature created now, and in 4-year programs will be able to integrate it, and if so, how we should integrate it, like social innovation and social enterprise, and the issues with the marginalization increasing because of the technology and other.
Absolutely, I think that's a very interesting take. When we are talking about the context of national education policy, we must understand that I'm proud to say that a lot of things which we do in social work is being adopted in the national education policy, and that's something which is I consider as a very, very interesting turn in the education sector per se. When I'm talking about this, the community engagement. Community engagement is going to be very, very critical in undergraduate studies. So the 4-year undergraduate program which the NEP talking about includes a substantial amount of community engagement. And that means that education and society needs to work hand in hand, and there has to be a cross learning happening from education institutions and educational programs to the society, and from the society to the educational programs. So in that sense, I think social work holds a very, very interesting position in driving the entire process of national education policy. And the 4-year program which we are talking about has multiple entry, multiple exit options. So that means at different levels, you are able to develop certain skills and use those skills to intervene at different levels. And you can come back anytime. You can take a break. You can complete that process maybe at the certificate level, diploma level and degree level, and then with research.
I will stop you here. You said a very important word, skills. So we will be having new set of skills for social workers?
Absolutely, absolutely. We need.
And are we prepared for that to deliver those skills to the people?
Yeah, I would like to draw your attention to the last chapter in this book, which you are referring to. We were talking about how to equip social workers in this changing scenario. the change scenario requires new technologies, and this social work herald is an interesting
Yes.
process in that. So you need digital communication, digital way of communication. But what is interesting is that during the pandemic, we have engaged with education through online platforms, and we have even done casework. We have done counseling through digital platforms and all. But I think rather than digitizing the social in social work, socializing the digital is required.
Wow, wonderful.
That's a very, very important. It's not a jargon. I'll explain you with this. So when you are interacting with clients in a one-on-one counseling session, you are actually using the digital medium to connect with that. But there are a lot of things which you are probably not able to understand by seeing the client in front of you. But when we are using this digital technology should not completely overtake the social in it. How do we socialize the digital is going to be very important rather than digitizing the social. So everything you digitize, then you become subject of the technology. Whereas we are socializing the digital. I'll give you a small example of our admission process. When we were converting the entire admission process into online admission process, a lot of students from different parts of the country could attend. Otherwise, they had to come to Mumbai to attend the interview. Here, a student from Chhattisgarh, rural remote village, going to a taluka place, sitting in a cafe and attending the interview. Now, sometimes the network goes away, or sometimes the power goes away. We have a team of calling team which will immediately connect. The moment the person is dropped out of the interview, the calling team will call. That's socializing the digital. You don't rely completely on the digital, but how to make your social, because that's the primary thing of social.
Correct.
The moment you lose social work doesn't have any significance. So there are multiple ways in which socializing digital can be done. So I've explained in the book, and I encourage people to read, and I can
Wonderful.
talk more about that later.
Thank you, Professor. You have touched some very important issues, and I'm sure that viewers of Social Work Herald will be benefited with your knowledge and the new area, remaking social work for the new global era, your contribution and Indian contribution, making the social work education better for masses. Thank you very much for coming to Social Work Herald.
Thank you for